you. You know what? I have a special guest with me in addition to Max Freeman, who is on the line. You all know and love Max. But I have, boy, I'm going to destroy this, but Etienne de la Boetie squared. he is noted author of Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed, How Intergenerational Organized Crime Runs the Government and Media. And I had the pleasure of listening to Etienne on the Higher Side Chats. I love that podcast, and I started listening, and this Etienne guy's starting to talk, and you know, he's like, seems like he should be part of a Freeman community dedicated to maximum freedom, privacy, liberty. All of this kind of seems to be his thing. And so I started to socialize it internally. Hey, has anyone ever heard of this guy? And it looks like I'm the only dumbass who's never who didn't know you, Etienne. You have done some amazing work. Really want to hear about your work with Thick Red Line, as well as your book. But the craziest thing is, I learned that you were an early investor in Epic Cash, and we're promoting it as an investable coin at around 20 cents. And I'm not talking about the 20 cents after the hack. This was before, right? Do I have that right? Welcome to the show.
It's great to be with you, and great to be with Max. And yes, so I'm the author of Government, the Biggest Scam in History. And in the book, we, not only do we break down that, that government was never intended to protect life, liberty, and property. It's a technique, a tool of intergenerational organized crime to rob and control societies. Government is always illegitimate because it's impossible to have a legitimate government. You can't delegate rights you don't have yourself. You can't be bound by a social contract that you didn't sign. And if Max and myself, because there's two of us and one of you, if we can't vote that you have to give us all your money and we get to boss you around, then it doesn't matter if there's 3 of us or 20 of us or 500 million of us. Nothing can take something that's inherently immoral and logical and make it moral and logical. So government has been the biggest scam in history, and they get away with it because it's the government and the media and academia working together. Now, academia is more hierarchical control of what's being taught in the mandatory government school, but the basics of the scam are, we're going to get kids when they're young. We're going to force them into a mandatory government school where we're going to teach them that government is legitimate, desirable, and necessary before they're old enough to evaluate the logic and the morality of that claim. And we're going to slide it to them as a religion, as a pseudo religion called statism. And statism is the belief, the religious belief in having a government, the belief that it's legitimate, desirable, and necessary, even though there's no ironclad law of the universe that the government is legitimate, desirable, and necessary. And so then after they slip it to you in this unethically manipulative, education, mandatory education program, then it's reinforced by control of the media. And in the book, we do a lot with media ownership charts and media organization charts so that you can see that on the old media side, print, television, radio, et cetera, we got 6 companies running hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of subsidiaries to give everybody the illusion that there's all these different information sources in society, but really it's just a tiny handful of people, operating as a cartel. And then on the new media side, there is, 2 to 3 dozen, what I like to call DARPA front companies. And DARPA were the people that invented the internet, and they had the internet for decades before they let everybody onto their little military network. But what I believe and what I make the case for in the book is that, that these companies, that these 2 to 3 dozen companies, Google, YouTube, Yahoo, Facebook, Twitter, Discuss, the Comment Engine, Meetup, Snopes, Reddit, Amazon, MailChimp, Netflix, et cetera, that these companies were overfunded with unlimited bankster money that they make make up out of thin air by tickling the ivories. That they have, given them unlimited capital. They've given them patent protection. They've given them a complete head start in IP, IP technology at the beginning of the internet when nobody knew what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and, seed these companies out. And then they did that with the express point of controlling perception widely to make sure that you don't understand and never get to see the people that are exposing the illegitimacy and the criminality of the system. Now, what I told you isn't hypothetical that those companies are censoring. Every single one of those companies that I just listed has been caught censoring. We back up everything in the book with a 16 gigabit flash drive that is going to 32 gigabit with the 5th edition of the book. And that 32 gig, we've got an article like how the CIA made Google that breaks down the specific DARPA programs, the Highland Forum, which is a program that ties DARPA to Silicon Valley and to these tech giants. It breaks it down, and then we put it on these uncensorable credit card sized flash drives where you can keep it in your wallet. It's not going to disappear off the internet. Everything is in a tight bundle that reinforces the book, and that you can make copies for your friends. And so that is, that's really, that's kind of like the basics of what I do. I do it under.
How do we find the book? Because I tried to, I went to Amazon and searched for it, and unless I entered my search incorrectly, I couldn't find it.
So it's at government-scam.com. The 5th edition will be on Amazon in about a month and a half now. But right now we've been selling it at government-scam.com. It's been the best-selling book at over a dozen Liberty conferences and events the past 2 years. And it's starting to go completely viral in 2021. So
that is awesome.
2019, we sold 200 copies. In 2020, we sold 800 copies. Last year, we sold about 3,850-ish copies. I got to figure out what the final total is that we just finished the year. But but what's most fascinating, out of that 3,800, over 1,000 of those were bought in we call friends bundles. And so people are buying these in 5s and 10s and they're giving them to their friends, their colleagues. They're putting them into Airbnbs as coffee table books. They're donating them to libraries.
That's so great.
Little mini libraries. They send us pictures. I get pictures of people, putting these in little mini libraries in neighborhoods. And so there's not a lot of books out there that people are buying in 5s and 10s. So we've made it to that very, very, rare club, and this thing is starting to go viral. And so now we're working on a 5th edition to bring it into the age of the COVID. And so that 5th edition will expose how the COVID scam worked, how they, perpetrated it, how they controlled the media and everything about the COVID. And then we're doing an Indiegogo campaign to help finance that at artofliberty.org/Indiegogo, where you can get a discount for pre-ordering the book and helping us get this out into the public at artofliberty.org/Indiegogo.
I love the idea of buying in bulk and then just planting them certain places. I can't say it out loud, but I bought this book in bulk, 10 copies. And I recently gave it to my pharmacist, and as I was getting some medication, I said, "Hey, I think you might enjoy this." And I have 8 more in my car, which I'm just going to selectively at certain points, just passively do. So I will do the same with yours. I think that's awesome. And I will definitely put a link to the site where people can buy it in my show notes. I have Max Freeman on the line, and I realize you two are long lost friends, right? So say hello, Max.
Yeah, not lost. We're in touch all the time. Howard's been a great supporter of our work, and we've done our small part to support his I was just taking a look at your website while you guys were talking and noticed that you accept crypto through coinpayments.net, but they don't have us yet. So I made a mental note to follow up with some people to make that happen. But yeah, there's all kinds of synergy. I'd say that if we did a survey of our existing Freeman family, where they tend to fall on the belief spectrum from agorist to communist, I'd say most people are pretty far toward the Howard, line of thinking. So I sent a few books through the chat that I would recommend. One is called Hologram of Liberty. It's about the Constitutional Convention and some of the basically like the slow rug pull that was engineered through the design of the checks and balances that has played out over 200 years. Tower of Basel that talks about the role of the BIS and the financial side of the control mechanisms. And then also classic, The Creature from Jekyll Island, that talks about the founding of the Federal Reserve back 109 or so years ago. So yeah, always great to be on the show. And Howard, good to have you on board. I know we talked a few months ago and things were going great guns, and sounds like it's only accelerated since then. So good for you.
I would like to just insert one other name, not a book, but a documentary, Money Masters, Bill Still. Both of you are very familiar. I only recently got familiar with Bill and his work like a week and a half ago, right after I'd listened to the Higher Side Chats and learned about you, Etienne. I know that's your pen name, so I'll go by that. But it's crazy that I listened to both of you guys on the same day. And it was just so eye-opening to find like-minded people who are not under a spell, and then being able to clearly articulate that these, whether they're money masters, or I always referred to them on my channel that was deleted 7 times off YouTube, the Uncle Odd channel, I referred to the controllers as the Druid Babylonian bastards. But it's great for people to document that these people played long ball. I mean, we're talking centuries long ball. So when you start thinking about how could it be so that they could literally control everything, the media, the educational side, just think about it. Only one generation has to grow up within that, and then it just becomes the norm. And so by the way, everybody listening, Bill Still, Money Masters, you have to go watch it, and please watch it today, because I just got off the phone with him an hour and a half ago. He's coming on my show, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow night, 7 to 9 p.m. Money Masters has been seen over 100 million times on YouTube, 100 million times. He said it was over 40 million before YouTube did their little thing 10 years ago and stopped the counting. But based upon the trajectory, I'm a sales guy, I round up over 100 million times. But even at 40 million 10 years ago, that's astonishing. I mean, just absolutely astonishing. Please listen to it before our show tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Max, you'll be on with me, and so looking forward to that. So that's just giving you a little bit a peek into the future. But Etienne, so tell me about Epic Cash and you, and how did you? So you're crypto savvy, obviously, and have been for a long while. And can you tell me why? Why did crypto appeal to you?
So it's funny. So Bitcoin came across my radar in 2014. And I assigned my IT guy to set us up a Bitcoin server, and he never did it. One of the many things that he dropped the ball on. And years later, I saw him at a crypto meetup, and he was just like ashamed, like I got doing that, kind of a thing. Believe it or not, and he was passing himself off as a crypto expert. And so I kind of lost touch with it. And then in February of 2015, I went to the very first in Acapulco,
Okay.
And at the VIP dinner, I ended up at the table of a guy named Roger Ver. I had absolutely no idea who he was. Bitcoin
Yeah.
hadn't really popped to the moon yet or anything like that.
Right.
And so over dinner, he made the case for Bitcoin. And, after listening to him, I got it. And so the next day I hired Juan Galt, paid him a margarita, $50, and bought him a book. And he sat down next to me and helped me set up a wallet and, and like took me through the basics and everything like that. And then I gave my kids their allowance in Bitcoin
Beautiful.
from 2015 to 2016. They had been getting them in nickels, and if you know James Wesley Rawls' nickel theory, that's why they were getting them in nickels.
Okay.
And so they went from getting their allowance in nickels to getting it into Bitcoin. And so they hated it. They absolutely, we can't spend it. We can't. By 2017 or like whenever it popped to like 20K, they both had around $20,000 in their wallets. And
Their Lambo fund.
Dad went from being an idiot
Yeah.
to being the smartest guy on the planet. So,
Until it dipped down to 3 and they learned what the word retrace was.
well, so as it was going down, I get a call from a friend of mine, and my friend says, I tried to hire her son and pay him in Bitcoin, and she's like, do you still have Bitcoin? And I go, why? I dumped it because I thought, this is when the transaction fees went to the moon, and
Yeah.
when the fees went to the moon. And I said, I think it's junk, but my son still has some. She's like, well, my company has been hacked. They've locked up our servers. They want half a Bitcoin for ransom. And we don't know anybody that has a Bitcoin. Our insurance company has authorized us to pay $10,000 for half a Bitcoin, but we don't know where to get a Bitcoin, and we need it like yesterday.
Wow.
And we're dead in the water. And so I called my son, who was 16 years old at the time, and I say, hey, here's, explain the situation. And so Friday night, I was living in Virginia. We drive down to Fairfax, Virginia. We meet this guy. He was a multi-million-dollar apparel company that made t-shirts for the Rolling Stones and like all these concert tours and everything like that. It is, we call it Rand's Christmas Miracle because it was 2 days before Christmas. Bitcoin was on the way down. It was at $14,800. And so, the guy explains what's going on. We explain what's the deal is with Bitcoin. We help him set up a wallet. He takes out $10,000 in cash, maybe a third of it hundreds and 2/3 of it 50. So it's like that thick, and tosses it down in front of my 16-year-old son. And all of a sudden, the internet funny money just became real. And my son's eyes are like that big. And I'm like, count it out, boy. And he's like counting it out and everything like that. So they paid him the entire $10,000. So he not only did he make, like I said, so 7,400 would have been half of Bitcoin. So he made $2,600 by having, and it was a great lesson. It was a lesson in economics. It was a lesson in investing. It was a lesson in everything. He had a knowledge differential over this guy. And because he made an extra $2,600 for his
Crazy.
And so now by the way, he's an Epic Cash investor too, and he knows more about Epic Cash than I do.
Oh man, hook him up! We got to have him on the show.
Oh, I'd love it. I'll do it. I will absolutely.
I want you to replay that story with your son on the line. That would be so cool. And I want to ask him. We have a Telegram group.
He's in it. He monitors it more than I do.
Oh, that's cool. He's in Epic Hood? Is he in Epic Hood?
I don't know which one he's in the main one. I know.
Okay. Well, it's so funny. You'll appreciate this. So, all these young whippersnappers that are just going into college and stuff. My buddy, Pooch, he's known as Mr. P. His son, Kyle, and friends, they're all just kind of these cocky guys. And they were just talking about how they're these they're killing it on Robinhood and whatnot. And then Mike was talking to them about they should invest in Epic Cash. And they're like, oh, how do you do that? And they say, well, you need to get BTC first. And these guys are like, oh, I have BTC. And Mike said, well, let me show you how to get it. You need to send it into the Vite wallet, and I'll do a match for every amount of Bitcoin that you send over. I will match it. And he did that on purpose because you can't get Bitcoin off Robinhood. So they were so pissed off. They were like, fuck Robinhood, and so we started Epichood. So it's t.me/Epichood. Your son should go in there, and it sounds to me like he could drop some knowledge with the rest of the group, but it's a fun group. Not a big community, but yet. But it's the youth. It's the youth. But yeah,
I will definitely introduce him to it.
Perfect. But yeah, so organized crime controls government and the media, and I'm pretty sure that includes the banks. and we'll learn more from Bill Steele tomorrow night on that, I'm sure. But with this, and kind of the reason why I wanted to have you on the phone with Max is I'd like to talk about censorship resistance and what that means, and how crypto can be our ally to be able to ultimately protect our privacy, our freedoms, protect us from illegal search and seizure, and and how Bitcoin, people may not like to hear it, but it is an absolute surveillance coin. And Epic Cash is not. That's one of the things that most of us who understand like about it very much. But between you and Max, can you guys unpack it? I'd love to hear how you first got into Epic Cash, by the way. I mean, that's fascinating because you're like considered an old guard right now.
I met Max at a party at Kingsley Edwards, the head of Byte. And we just started, sat down and talking, and he explained the project to me, and it got me interested. So I did some research and got myself in, really, really early. I didn't have a whole lot of money because I'm spending all my money trying to expose this organized crime system, but I've done very, very well with Epic, and it fits my criteria. And so, like you just explained, the problem, one of the many problems with Bitcoin. And by the way, I've been selling the book for crypto the entire time that I've had the book available. And so I've done, hundreds of Bitcoin transactions before. I'd done, probably definitely 100 Bitcoin transactions before the fees went, and the transaction times went retarded.
Yeah.
But that to me, and when I got out of it, when I told you, and I still got some because people keep buying the book in it, and then it like cost me so much to transfer it from Coin Payments that I just like let it build up on Coin Payments sometimes. But I still take it, but I don't like to take, I don't prefer it. I prefer Bitcoin Cash. I prefer Monero. I prefer Epic Cash. I prefer privacy coins. And so Epic Cash meets my criteria of a privacy coin where we're going to obscure the destination and the origination addresses. It's not a public blockchain. And so that is what I'm looking for in a crypto. And so that's one of the reasons that I was a fan. And also it's a Liberty-based coin. And so, Max and others in the project are helping the Liberty community. And so that's something that I wanted to get behind.
Well, thank you. Well, certainly we all know that nation states have been in the news lately for banning and proposing the bans of cryptocurrency in general, and certainly privacy coins. And to me, when you just think that through, that's as ridiculous as them coming out and saying that they want to ban cash because it can't be surveilled from peer to peer.
When the Chinese shut down the miners and shut down the exchanges, I don't know if you remember this, but they did not try to ban crypto transactions within China. And I think that the reason that they didn't try and ban, they could get their hands around the throat of the exchanges, but they would have looked completely impotent if they had tried to ban the transactions and then have hundreds of millions of Chinese that just kept on doing whatever they were doing
Right.
without the thing. And so that's the reason why they choke the exchanges, but don't try and stamp out people from doing it peer to peer.
That's interesting. Max, we are a coin that our use case isn't Epic Cash is a privacy coin, but we happen to be a coin whose transactions are private. Yet we are regulatory friendly. How can that be?
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. So we have to go back to the beginning of how this all started. So Bitcoin Core came out, and it was the first of its kind. And so I believe the knee-jerk reaction of pretty much every jurisdiction on the planet, I'm going to say 90+% went through the phase of, oh, we're going to ban that. And then they discovered that that doesn't work so well. And then, they dial it back, and some like Estonia and Malta have tried to become more friendly, and then flip-flopped. And so I've watched the evolution of the regulatory cat and mouse game between the different players for the number of years. And so when Bitcoin Core came out, it eventually came to get settled that if you have this certain type of network design, which Epic follows, distributed consensus, proof of work, no special nodes, nobody in control, all this good stuff that we have baked into the DNA of Epic, which we refer to as the DNA of Bitcoin, because if you really look at it, it's Bitcoin Core that has strayed from the original formula, and we've just designed for that original formula. And so the powers that be said, okay, BTC is okay, according to our interpretation of how the rules of the game are going to be. And then when Ethereum came out, Ethereum was an illegal securities offering, or Ether rather, 70% pre-mine. It was sold to investors. People were in control. They had a Swiss foundation. And because they designed the consensus the same as Bitcoin Core, with the proof of work and mining based predominantly on GPUs, which meant, like Howard alluded to, that it couldn't be controlled. They said, well, facts and circumstances indicate that it was a security, but now it's not, because it's, quote, sufficiently decentralized. And so we spent a lot more time figuring out how to get our technology to conform with what the regulators or the regulatory environment needed it to look like, more so than having a technology vision and then saying, I wonder how that's going to interface with the legal environment. There's a lot of things like the DAO treasury stuff, as an example, the things that are only coming into play now this year with ECR and some of that stuff. It just wasn't doable back then. And so that interview I did with Danny back from August 2019, we were talking about the stablecoin, and we were talking about a lot of this other stuff, but it was just premature because the technology wasn't ready, the landscape wasn't ready. We had a lot of building to do and a lot to prove. So privacy is protected by the Fourth Amendment. It's illegal search and seizure. That's on solid ground. The sending of transactions is covered through free speech, First Amendment. And so as long as those two things about the network and about the landscape of rights that we're supposed to have stay the same, then we will stay compatible. And our code is not going to change. Our stance on these key properties isn't going to change. So it will likely be the legal environment that is to change if something is. And then you have this issue of legitimacy and trust because on the one side, we are committed to 21 million and all these things that we promised right in the beginning, and they're not changing. Whereas the adversary side, if you want to call it that, is making things up as they go along and changing the rules of the game. I happen to think that unrealized gains taxation on these transparent ledgers is going to be a very unpleasant wake-up call for many as they discover that $100,000 BTC may not be that good of a thing for you because in these tough times, maybe your fair share is a higher percentage than you think possible. And nobody, not one man in a million, is baking that into their calculations yet.
Well, I want to just draw everyone's attention to epicenter.epic.tech because we are talking about privacy, and I like the header, private Bitcoin for the people. And this first sentence is so true. BTC is not Bitcoin. BTC is a surveillance coin. Epic Cash is the original Bitcoin standard, updated with revolutionary Mimblewimble privacy protocol, ensuring complete anonymity, scalability, and fungibility. Epic Cash, decentralized, confidential, hard money that can't be controlled or stopped. Financial freedom for the masses. I think, Etienne, that's kind of music to your ears, right?
It is, I mean, I look at the banks as being in the, the upper echelon of, this control system. And the two analogies that I like to use when I try and explain the fraud of central banking and the fraud of fractional reserve banking, one of them is, if I have $1 and you have $1 and both of us have the only $2 on the planet, you own 50% of the planet's wealth and I own 50% of the planet's wealth. Well, if a central bank or a money center bank backed up by a central bank gets to create $2 more through fractional reserve banking or through quantitative easing, all of a sudden now they own 50% of the planet and you and I are down to 25%. Mm-hmm. And so that's the first analogy that I like to use. The second analogy that I like to use is, imagine we're playing Monopoly and a game of Monopoly, and the banker is cheating, and the banker is reaching under the table and grabbing $500 bills when nobody is looking. Well, at the end of the game, who owns everything on the board and who are renters and debtors?
I like that analogy.
If you take a look at the capital accumulation of BlackRock and Vanguard, that appears to be exactly what's going on. You've got the money center banks being backstopped by the Federal Reserve to create money out of thin air using fractional reserve banking, and they're turning their little paper tickets that they create out of thin air into real plant, property, equipment, resources, real estate, etc. And that is the name of the game. And what's happening, I think, is more and more people globally are figuring out that this whole system is illegitimate. The government's illegitimate. The government is openly criminal. There's a poll out today that says over a third or 40% of the population of the United States is, I couldn't remember if it's open to or supportive of violence against the government. People are realizing how the government is literally stealing the money out of their pocket. The same.
Do you know what is just heartbreaking? This summer, I was helping my daughter get into her first home, and we were, had a reasonably priced range, right? That would be good for someone in their mid-20s. And it was like, we just couldn't find anything because someone was coming in and they were offering 20% over ask with cash. Yeah. And as it turns out, BlackRock is coming in and literally buying everything that's out there, and on purpose with intent so that they cannot flip it or live in it to make a profit. They're just literally wanting, by doing that, surgically doing that, there's going to be no other choice for people who are younger, just getting started, to be able to have the American dream of their own home. They're going to have to be renters. And then what's going to happen? These Druid Babylonian bastards are just going to keep jacking the rent. Yep. And It is just right there before us, and you just nailed it. I mean, everything is owned by those two companies, right? And when people start waking up to that and realize that what has been going on these last 2 years is not about health, it's about fear.
It's about robbery.
It's about robbery, right?
The engineered COVID has been the engineered, manufactured reason for the bailouts and the stimulus, among other crimes. I mean, it wasn't just one thing. It's like 9/11 wasn't just one thing. It was an insurance, job. It was designed to get us into wars in the Middle East. They made money off, put options on the airlines. There were so many different scams going on. They were getting rid of documents that were in Building 7. There were so many different scams going on simultaneously. The COVID is very, very similar in that, it's a whole bunch of scams, but I think that
we're all concerned about it, by the way, YouTube censors. We're a heartfelt concern. So yeah.
I know, this is ridiculous that
I know it's so hard.
Free speech that these DARPA front companies are able to algorithmically censor people talking about real, important issues. This is the criminality, and this is how they're getting away with it. But I guess, what I wanted to say I believe it was the engineered reason for the bailouts. The goal is we're going to hand trillions with a T of dollars to private banks and private companies through these bailouts and stimulus. And now we got to figure out a reason that we get to do that.
Yeah.
And the other reason that I believe is I think that the U.S. Treasury market is falling apart. And so, we did a multi-investigator investigation in 2020. And in that investigation, I brought up the fact that in December of 2019, January of 2020, February of 2020, the Fed at that point, it was borrowing over 1.1 trillion in by selling bills, bonds, and notes, and that number was expected to go up by 25% over and above last year before the COVID. And in December and January and February, the Fed, which is prohibited by law from buying Treasury securities at the auction, was caught not buying them at the auction because that would be illegal, buying them one day later from the primary dealers.
Wow.
Held on to them for a day. And so when chrismartinson.com and Zero Hedge, began publishing the specific QSIP numbers and the specific tranches that this was going on in, and openly questioning, why is the Fed having to buy their debt? So I think the Treasury market was about to blow up. And so, September of 2019, the repo market was blowing up. And so I think that part of what the scam is that it's the engineered reason for the Fed to openly participate in the Treasury markets, which they did under, the guise of this, emergency. And at one point it was $80 billion a day that they were participating with. Now it's down to it was 80 billion a month the last time I looked several months ago. But they needed something to bail out the Treasury market.
So if we want to participate in the they, we always say they when we're dealing with controllers, right? I think that we're starting to get a fairly good idea at who they are. I'm not saying all the way to the tip of the spear, but
we know everybody up to the tip. So in my book, we've got organization charts, Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg Group charts showing how
World Economic Forum.
But showing how those three organizations alone have maneuvered their members into, on the media side, dozens and dozens and dozens of ostensibly independent media companies that are operating, they're all on the same, page, singing from the same sheet of music.
Literally.
Those three organizations have maneuvered their membership into dozens and dozens of, of ostensibly independent media companies where they're all singing the same tune, whether that tune is 9/11, whether that tune is Oklahoma
Sure.
City bombing, whether that tune is Waco, whether that tune is the pandemic, whatever it is. That's the media side. And then we've got another chart, and that other chart is shows that the exact three organizations, it's not just the media, it's the Federal Reserve System, it's the presidency, it's the vice presidency, it's the cabinet, it's the House of Representatives, it's the Senate, it's the Import-Export Bank, it's the IMF, it's the heads of the CIA, the heads of the FBI, it's the Joint Chiefs of Staff, it's every major position going back decades. So the visualization that we have in the book actually goes back decades and shows, each Secretary of Defense or each secretary thing. And so going back decades, so you can see the structure. So the book has been designed to wake up your friends, your family, your relatives, take them from 0 to 60, because most people are visual learners.
Yes.
And everything that I just said, if you told that to a friend or a relative or a colleague, they may or may not believe you. But if you show them a media organization chart or a media ownership chart or one of these visualizations in the book, well, what I'm doing is I'm making something that was invisible now visible through visualization. And all of a sudden people go, I did not understand. Now I see it. I can see the structure. I can see
good for you
doing it.
Man, you're doing yeoman's work. You're helping to break the spell. And the easiest way, well, I don't know. I smelled bullshit very early on with all of that's happened over the last couple of years. And I ended up making a conscious decision, just because I could not take it anymore, of watching any TV. And I got to tell you, people who are out there are literally two realities.
Yeah.
The reality that is coming from the TV that impacts you in your own operating reality. And then there's the reality of, if you shut the damn thing off and you went and experienced this world, you would notice such a different reality. It is not scary, and there's not a asymptomatic silent assassin boogeyman around every corner. I mean, one of my favorite stats is not one grocery. I go to the same Publix grocery I have, for a decade, right? And those are people who work there, who deal with people every single day, touching items, putting, and you know what? I know most of them on first name basis. Have not been informed of one funeral. It's just like everyone in my operating reality is just fine. But you wouldn't know that.
Second biggest scam in history.
What's that?
The scandemic is the second biggest scam in history after government, and government is the scam that makes the second biggest scam possible.
Yeah. And for those of you who it's probably likely at this point, just hang in there if I get my strike and I have to be put in timeout for a week. But this stuff is important. I think, have you heard of Media Bear?
I have not.
So Media Bear, he's this musician who did these mocking music videos of everything that's going on, where he would put things like just virtue signaling, he's hilarious. He uses his humor. I had him on the show just to interview him, to talk about, and just the fact that I put Media Bear in my comments, my show notes, I got struck for that. I talk crypto. So it's like, unfortunately, the reason why this is appropriate to crypto and why it's on topic is because we're talking about and tomorrow we'll talk with Bill still more about the banks. And so crypto, most of it is centralized, right? You're dealing with exchange. The exchanges control the funds. You're not anonymous. You have to go through all of your KYC. There's all of the hacks and server downtime versus decentralized, where the user, you and me, we control the funds. It's anonymous. And you know, there's just, I don't know, Max, you're the expert on this. Can you just educate us a little bit about centralization versus decentralization and why that path was so important to you in the design of our ecosystem?
Yeah, so whenever there's a point of centralization, there's a point of potential control and even potential catastrophic failure. So let's look at Bitcoin Core. So in order to maintain consensus, the miners need to run an algorithm called SHA-256. And because the the pace of Moore's law is such that every 24 months or so, the equipment gets so much better that you can't really afford to run the old equipment anymore because the new competitors are taking so much of the mining rewards that you don't earn anything. There's an unrecognized key vulnerability there, because what if a nation state decided to, I don't know, go and monopolize the 5 nanometer silicon and then not sell it to the market, instead install it in secret? I don't know, there's a country that just banned mining that has 54% of the hash rate suddenly available, just scratching my head here. And then what if you just unveil that 2 years from now and nobody else has access to the gear? Okay, well, you now have a really big multi-trillion-dollar problem because your network isn't secure anymore. And so you can take down trillions of dollars in value with a few billions of dollars. That's a pretty good investment. And I'd be surprised if it's not already being made. If I can think of that vulnerability, then I'm sure others can too. And so in Epic, because we have the multi-algorithm approach, there's over 20,000 computers that are securing the network right now in over 100 countries, and CPUs can do it, laptops, desktops, soon mobiles, gaming rigs. We can have as many algorithms in as we want. And so we resisted the choke point, the Achilles heel, that potential vulnerability, years ahead of anybody even dreaming about that stuff. We were designing against those risk scenarios. And there's other things like that. And so anytime you peek under the hood and there's something where it's centralized, then adversaries can think of a way to attack that and cause problems. And when you get into a market like Bitcoin Core, BTC, where a lot of it is financialization run amok with the exchange traded funds and GBTC and all the futures and options and stuff, then it's not just about the double spend on that block. It's about the money you can make on the derivatives. 9/11 was very profitable for the people that were trading puts on the airlines and then bought back after the crash, before rescues were announced. And all that corruption type of stuff is baked in there. And so with a little bit of forward thinking, we said, how can we protect against all these potential ills that might afflict these other networks that are based around more obsolete and primitive designs? And then we just figured out whether available tech would enable us to do that. And in almost all cases, it has. And the few remaining parts that represent a point of paranoia for us to be, concerned about on the distant horizon, there's research efforts in motion to figure out which trade-offs make sense to remove them.
Well,
so that's how we got to where we are.
I think I have to take off my shoes and go through the scanners at the airport because of terrorists, the 9/11 terrorists. And so let's talk about how the legislators are going to attack crypto. It's going to be about criminals such as Etienne, who accepts Monero and other cryptocurrencies, because the legislators are going to be discussing anti-money laundering and anti-terrorism. And if people don't think that is going to be the fake left, to usurp citizens' rights to liberty and protection from illegal search and seizure, you're wrong. So if you own Bitcoin, right idea, wrong coin. Come on over. Welcome to Epic Cash. Privacy is a human right, we believe. Thoughts?
I kind of agree with you in the sense that they're going to wrap it in anti-terrorism. They're going to wrap it in protecting kids. They're going to, wrap it in something like that. But at the end of the day, it's them trying to protect this unfair,
Advantage
over all of us. This is, kind of economic warfare against the population. And so I think that we have to be, aware of that. Also, in the book, I make the case that Bitcoin, I don't know if your audience knows this, but the NSA came out with a technical white paper called How to Make a Mint, the Cryptography of Anonymous Electronic Cash, over a decade before the Satoshi Nakamoto white paper. And so there's a lot of speculation that Bitcoin was, of the NSA. And then once that got out, then it became a free market and money. As people go, oh, okay, I can do that too, just like they can. But the genesis of it might have been, the NSA getting everybody ready for kind of setting the stage for central bank digital cash.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing that we have to worry about is problem, reaction, solution.
Yes.
Problem, Bitcoin is exposed as the, banker compliance coin. Reaction, they try and steer this into, central bank digital cash or some kind of non-privacy based coin. And so I look at our job is to make sure that privacy coins win the day.
Yes.
That the scam and the criminality and the danger of programmable central bank digital cash never sees the light of day, and everybody that's involved in setting it up and promoting it and whatever, they perp walk or they get their comeuppance.
Well put. Where are the white hats is one of my favorite questions. And yeah, I know. I want to be the first to share with everyone this video short that just came out. Richard, his voice, and Spencer, how they have the first two videos are out, but I just posted a video compilation that includes all three of them. And this is the third. No one has ever seen this one unless you watch the video I just posted. But I just think it's appropriate to share this. It's less than 3 minutes. Max, did you have a question?
Uncle, yeah. Let me before I forget. Before we start this, it's interesting. I definitely agree with 99+% of what's said, what was just said, if not all of it. And at a system level, the result is, or the intended result is clear. And you can just look at what happened since 1971 and who's been winning and who's been losing. But what I've been most surprised by, pleasantly so, is that at the individual foot soldier level, people within regulators and governments they think they're doing God's work, and they care about fighting crime, and they care about protecting consumers, and they may be unwitting agents of a system that is very bad for many people, but they're not looking at it that way. They're just showing up to work, giving it their best. And so that's another thing that I think it seems to be a conflict at a surface level, privacy plus regulation. But if you go, well, wait a minute, like guns don't kill people, people kill people. And by cutting the BS and trying to put a spoke in the wheel of something that isn't going to work anyway, by crippling technologies to put political, concepts in what should just be technology like packet routing, I think it frees up resources for things that really that really matter. So I just didn't want it to be all about that one view, because we've really been experiencing a wide spectrum of people that see value in what we're doing. They don't have to be completely all about every part to hone in on the scarcity or the cost effectiveness or the, whatever it is for their particular use case. I mean, cash, you said cash, shouldn't be banned. And yet in Sweden, they don't have cash and haven't for many years. In India, they demonetized everything above 2,000 rupees, and people were sitting in line for months. In the UK, they just demonetized everything above, I think, 10 pounds, if not 20. In Nigeria, you can't go to the bank unless you allow your bodily autonomy to be violated. And the list goes on. And the other thing is, I think that the existing incumbents are driving people to a new understanding of money. And if your old alternatives are going away, and they are, because they're expensive to serve and they're obsolete and they don't keep up with the times. A lot of these things are 1960s type of systems under the hood, thousands of banks merged into one conglomeration versus an app. Those two things don't go together. And the alternatives are going to be pretty terrible. We should probably pull up, if we can, I'll try to find it while we watch this, the Agustin Carstens clip, where he talks about, from his perspective, the wonderful benefits of CBDCs. And they're talking about how they can, prevent you from doing things with not your money, because they view it as their money. He says the central, the expressions of central bank liability. We think of it as our money, but they think of it as, they're letting you hold for a little while their product, subject to their terms and conditions. And so if you don't want that in your money, then it's a good thing we exist. And we're here happy to help you, use our money as your avoidance of that. But your ice cube is melting in these existing systems, and it's melting faster and faster. If I can just screen share for a second, let me pull this up, because this is really what is going on. I don't know if you can see that, the St. Louis Fred. This is the statistics website.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so,
that's physical cash.
What's that?
That's physical, because that's in one.
Well,
I'm sorry. It's physical and digital in zero.
Well, and Mike Maloney has of goldsilver.com, shout out to him, has some great content where he goes into the discontinued series, where basically if you go to China, they say the chocolate ration, everything is great. The chocolate ration's been increased from 30 grams to 20 grams this quarter. Everybody knows the statistics are fake, and they don't rely on them, for that. They're more, theater and propagandistic. And here they changed the calculation methodology of the M1, so it's not exactly apples to apples, and that's what the apologists for the existing paradigm are pointing to, as far as, yes, this number went hockey stick, but it's really not that bad because they changed the calculation methodology. But then there's also thousands of data points or data series, maybe hundreds. I don't want to exaggerate, certainly at least dozens that I've seen, where they just don't publish them anymore. And so all bets are off. And if real estate in your city is up 20% year over year, and you've never seen that in your life before, and your daughter is getting outbid by not fractional reserve lending, but no reserve lending. I don't know if you guys caught that, but within the past couple of years, the requirement to hold any reserves at all was taken away, and it became a literally no reserve system. So we're in charted waters, and at the end of the day, these competitive products for currency and money, Epic is a synthetic monetary commodity, just like gold is a natural monetary commodity. And the alternatives are simply inferior. They can be created at no cost in infinite quantities. And the Epic network, no matter how many people are mining, and that should scale into billions over the next few years, certainly, it'll only put out 5,760 coins a day. And no matter what, next summer or summer after next, June of 2023, that's going down by half. And then the next one after that, 1440. And so in every other asset class in the world, it requires belief and trust and faith in a lot of things. Maybe that's a safe bet. Maybe it's not, depending on where you live. But we're in times where the old rules increasingly don't apply. And so with Epic, it's going to be 21 million. It's immutable, nobody can change it, and the code is there, and you can run it yourself, so that you don't have to trust it. You don't have to trust in us or in anyone else. You just have to trust in the self-interest of the world at large to respond to that profit incentive of that income stream. That's really the genius of the Bitcoin economic paradigm, even if it was designed by the NSA as a surveillance training, what would that be? Gateway drug, let's say. So be it. But here we are, and there's really nothing preventing billions of people, everyone alive, from using Epic as money. So rant off. Let's watch that video.
All right, okay. Actually, you got it started. I'm not gonna show the video. I want to show this first. I want to go back to this. And Max, you weren't on the call, but had a conversation with Diego today, and was talking about. It was just a really interesting conversation. Kind of went around a few of us saying, "What do you think the vision of Epic is? The epicenter ecosystem. What does it mean to you?" And it's like interesting because there were a few of us on that call that each of us had, something different to kind of say. And Diego brilliantly used that as an opportunity to pull up this page and says, guys, I don't know if you understand, but Epic Cash is an amazing asset. It is a coin. But if you're having a conversation with somebody who has a lot of crypto savvy experience in Monero, you're going to start getting into the weeds about why ours is a little bit better than yours, but they both accomplish the same thing. So it just becomes kind of like a pissing match. And then you can go into DeFi coins, and there are lots of those, and there are lots of stable coins. But he said, do you understand the power of the epicenter ecosystem is this trifecta, all of it built and designed to seamlessly work together, not bubble gum and duct tape together, but designed from the beginning so that we can have a true bank of you, so that I don't ever have to sell my Epic Cash asset. I can borrow against myself and then be able to get fiat if I need it, to be able to pay for a car or whatever, while my Epic Cash is still increasing in value. And at some point in time, if I want to pay that back to get those coins back, I can. But the difference is nobody else, not one project on the planet, has this design that has been designed from Jump Street to accomplish this. And so we're getting there. So I just wanted to plant that seed. I want people to go to epicenter.epic.tech and really just kind of start taking all of this in, because we're going to do a much better job of being able to explain this and articulate our point of differentiation so that we don't have to argue with people who rightly appreciate their coins. That's just one part of our ecosystem. But now we're going to start getting people's attention once they start understanding the true macro vision. And part of that understanding are video shorts like this. This, again, is Spencer and Richard, and this is hot off the press. I hope you enjoy it. 2 minutes, 43 seconds. Psych.
At Epic, we often get asked, what's your vision? It's a great question. Over 100 years ago, Henry Ford had a dream. I will build a motor car for the great multitude. His first car, the Model A, was produced in 1903. It was good, but it wasn't perfect. It was unreliable and slow and expensive. 4 years later, in 1908, he produced the Model T. Technology had moved on. It was better, a lot better. It had more gears. It was faster. It was cheaper. It had a lot more uses. Oh, and it sold a few more too. By 1918, over half the cars in America were Model Ts. In 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto had a dream. It was a bit like Henry's dream. I will build a money for the great multitude. He launched Bitcoin in 2008. It was good, but it wasn't perfect. The blockchain was big and slow and public. Mining it was wasteful. Sending it was expensive. Most of it was owned by just a few. After Bitcoin came others, not perfect either, maybe corrupted or not totally private or unlimited supply or good for only one thing. They were all a bit like Henry's Model A, good for a few, not really for the many. It's like Henry's Model T, a whole new upgrade, not just for the 1% of the world who have crypto wallets, but for the 99% who don't. And the great news is, because technology's moved on, it's possible. A coin completely uncorrupted with a lighter, faster blockchain, which means for the 6 billion people on the planet with a smartphone, it can be easily useful in lots and lots of different ways. Like the Model T, easy to store in a mobile wallet, easy and quick to buy and spend, easy to mobile mine with friends, even easy to be your own bank and borrow from yourself. More and more and more, all in complete and absolute privacy and completely unconfiscatable. Because Epic isn't just one coin, it's a whole ecosystem. But that, as they say, is another story. So, what's our vision? Well, very simply, it's to make Satoshi's dream come true. Henry's Model T made motoring possible for millions. Epic will make digital money possible for billions.
I tell you what, they are so talented. They are so talented. Every time they drop one of these videos, I just get excited. So there you go. I wanted to insert that just so people in the chat could see the video that I just dropped earlier this afternoon. Sorry, I'm going to try to get on the page. There we go. There's the chat. That is a video that is includes all three of the videos in one. So if there's one link that I want to send a friend, a family, a colleague, somebody crypto curious at this point, especially if they're new, if they may not have mobile wallets, is I would send them a link to the video I just posted that has all three of those. It's bite size. It takes about 15, 20 minutes max to be able to get through it. And then if you're just a friend there on the other side, when they say, this is really interesting, I want to learn more, then help them figure out how to get a Vite wallet and set them up, get that receive address and send them a little Epic Cash, pay it forward. Okay. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to give that shout out to those guys because their work is endless. So Etienne, we have been fortunate to have you for over an hour. Let me just put it back to you. Is there anything else you'd like to chat about? Certainly would love to do this again, especially with your son.
All right, so I'm gonna hook that up. I'm gonna send this to him right after we get off this call, and I'm looking.
What's his name?
His name is his name is Rand.
Rand.
And he's a computer science guy at Virginia Tech, so he's the perfect.
Oh my gosh!
A tech guy as well. So I think you get the 19-year-old investor perspective.
That'll be fascinating.
I wanted to do is so we're in we're in the middle of an Indiegogo for the
Okay.
5th edition of Government, the Biggest Scam in History. And we
Okay.
want to bring it up to the age of the COVID. And so, and we're releasing a new, we have, I mentioned that we back everything up with the 16 gigabit,
Yes.
16 gigabyte flash drive. And so we're increasing that to 32, and we're adding information on the COVID. We're adding information on volunteerism. We're adding
Nice.
hundreds and hundreds of resources for survivalists and preppers. But we're actually trying to get it off the ground. We're at about 30% funded. And so if anybody wants to help us along, we're at www.artofliberty.org/Indiegogo. And if anybody would like to help us with Epic Cash, then you can just email me directly at Etienne@artofliberty.org. And for the crypto folks that don't want to use their credit cards or whatever, just drop me an email at Etienne@artofliberty.org, and we'll take care of that with Epic.
Can you do me a favor and in the Telegram just shoot those over, and then when this renders tomorrow, I'll put the show notes in and I'll include all of that.
Perfect, we'll do.
And then here's a suggestion. I know you use this for one of your other projects. If you would create a profile on epicfundme.com. Before we got on, I passed we passed the hat, and I'm pleased to report that we were able to raise 1,000 Epic for your campaign. So you can count on that. And then if anybody else is interested, definitely please consider supporting Howard's work.
Thank you. Thank you, Epic community.
That's awesome.
Much appreciated.
You bet. You bet. I tell you what, this has been a real pleasure. I'm sorry it took me so long to get on the on-ramp, the Etienne on-ramp, but now that we know each other, look forward to having many, many additional discussions and hopefully getting together at some point. We have our quarterly now Epic Cash conferences down in Miami. Maybe April might be able to circle that one and come down. That's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, I didn't know about. I want to get I might do that. That sounds good.
Oh yeah, but what are the dates, Max? 6th and 7th and 8th?
So the one you should come to is April, and it's 6th to 10th, or no, 6th to 9th, and that's a long time. I think we'll probably select some days within that, but definitely within that window, and we'll put out a lot of more information between now and then.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Well, I thank you very much. Thank you for doing this, especially short notice. And my inquiry to you kind of came out of left field. And you know what? You're just a cool dude. You're like you're just a normal, regular, cool dude. And I really appreciate all that you're doing to expose the scams and also, would you mind just quickly telling people about the thick red line? Did I get that right?
So I'm also one of the co-founders of the Thick Red Line Project, and the Thick Red Line Project supports the police to say no to the politicians on lockdowns, mask mandates, red flag laws, anything that is a victimless crime. And so what I realized when we were organizing resistance to the COVID, to the lockdowns and the mask mandates in California in 2020, is we talked to a lot of these cops, and they did not want to be doing it, but they were getting fired if they stood up one at a time. And so with the Thick Red Line Project, what we're doing is we're educating them on natural law, that you can't use politician law to determine if a law is moral or just. Otherwise, you get fugitive slave laws and Jim Crow laws in Nazi Germany. And so what the police should be using is natural law. And in natural law, there's 5 main transgressions. There's robbery, theft, murder, rape, assault, and trespass. And all of these are obviously wrong because there's a victim. A lot of people don't realize the word right. When you say I have a right to own a gun, or I have a right to do this, or I have a right to do that, the word right also comes from the natural law tradition. And a right is anything that is not a wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't hurting somebody else, you ought to have the right to do whatever you want to do in society. And when the police enforce victimless crimes with no victims, gambling or using cryptocurrency or smoking a plant or whatever it is, in natural law, it makes the police the victim, or the police the criminals, because the police are the ones that are using violence on peaceful people, either to raise revenue on their friends and neighbors for this corrupt government system, or to enforce the dictates of this organized crime system.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them don't want to do that. And so what is the solution? Well, they need to get together and say no collectively and refuse to enforce victimless crimes. And so the Thick Red Line Project, part of what we do is we educate police officers on what natural law is, so they understand that they're transgressing against nature and people's natural rights. And then we educate them that the strongest card that they have in their hand to play is to say no collectively, supported by the community. And so we organize community support for them to say no. So we unite the police and the people against the politicians. Checkmate, game over. And so that's at thickredline.org, and I'll include that one in the link.
Yeah, please do. That's brilliant. When I heard that strategy and the fact that it's working, because these people, my daughter's a police officer, and she's not a bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a lot of them. They're not. They got into it for the absolute right reasons.
Yes.
And the politicians are trying to push them to do things that are immoral and against natural law. And so we want to stop it. And so the politicians are the problem. And so if she would like to talk to me about Thick Red Line, I'd be happy to talk to her.
That's very cool. That's very cool. By the way, just a polite suggestion. I think you need to change your hat. Needs to be white. Needs to be white, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do. You are an impressive man, and can't wait to get you and your son on the show. Max, any parting gifts?
No, thanks, Howard.
My real name is Howard, and so every interview I do,
I think people figured that out. Yes, thank you, Howard, and thanks everyone in the chat. You guys are always awesome. And again, tomorrow night, Bill Still, 7 to 9 p.m. if this channel still is in existence. Please, and I say that kind of humorously. So yeah, please come. It's going to be fantastic. And Max, I know you're going to be on as well, and we're just going to have an amazing conversation. Do you know that he filmed that 26 years ago on a POS Canon camera? It's just amazing. He was telling me that.
Have you seen The Secrets of Oz yet?
No.
Wait till you see his documentary, The Secrets of Oz.
I'll do it tonight. It's The Secrets of Oz.
Yeah. And I'm actually the guy that talked Bill Still into putting that out onto YouTube for free and explained the freemium model of, and so I'm the one that got it helped get it on YouTube. So
brilliant.
I feel really, really good about being able to do that. Brilliant.
And I mean, please, everyone, this man has put so much into educating us all to the beast system, if you will. The Secrets of Oz. That's going to be, I will watch that this evening. That's going to be, you know what is today? Is today
Wednesday all day.
Okay, Wednesday. I was thinking it was Thursday, and I was like, Thursday night football, but they don't have Thursday night football anymore. So I'm watching The Secrets of Oz. So thank you. All right, everyone. Tell